Welcome to today's edition of the Author's Corner, brought to you by KNEO 91.7 FM, The Word, and I'm Roberta Foster. Today, I welcome Jeff Schadt to Author's Corner. He's written the book, What's Really Causing My Kids' Bad Behavior? And he'll tell you more about how to find the book at the end of the program. A little bit about Jeff. He started seeking answers in 2005, resulting in authoring 5 books based upon his research with thousands of kids. This led to holding hundreds of seminars for parents. At these events, parents began pleading with him to help their kids. Soon, Jeff was seeing kids facing issues as serious as rage, suicidal thoughts, self-harm turn around in as little as 6 months. And he loves helping kids more than anything, but found that helping parents was vital to seeing kids thrive. And we're going to talk to Jeff about that. Welcome to Author's Corner, Jeff.
Roberta, it's great to be with you today.
Was there something in your background that led you to find a real desire to find out about the inner struggles of kids?
Well, yeah, it was my oldest daughter who would blame the sun, the dog, the wind, the moon, anything to not be wrong. And she was getting hard and defiant. And, of course, we saw that as rebelliousness that we needed to break. And we were doing everything that we heard from other parenting experts and focus on the family, and things were getting worse. And finally, I'm just like, I'm missing something here. And when I started to actually talk and listen to kids and understand their perspective, I was like, holy cow, I look nothing like Jesus to my own kid.
And so what did you find was the first thing you needed to start doing to help your daughter?
Well, the first thing dealt with the fact that she was avoiding admitting she was wrong because of the consequences that we were giving her.
Okay.
And she feared the consequences so much that she would want to deny the failure and or lie or hide things. And what I found in the research across 3,000 kids was, yeah, kids are motivated to hide and lie things from us because of the consequences. And I'm like, wait a minute, how does that line up with the passage that says, if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have true fellowship, and then the blood of Jesus purifies us from all unrighteousness? It doesn't. And so I've been challenged as a parent from minute one to minute end in this research to have to change everything I was doing as a parent, which is what's led to this book, What's Really Causing My Kids' Bad Behavior, because there are so many things we don't think about. We think about their behavior, but we don't think about what are the roots underneath that are causing that bad behavior.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you talk about in your book is that parents aren't asking the right questions about their kids' poor decisions and bad behavior. That sounds like a unique way of going about doing things rather than just telling them what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, what we've found is that lots of times underneath our kids' bad behavior are a number of things that are going on emotionally, because our kids are more emotional than logical. And you know, postmodern kids are way more about community and relationship and authenticity than they are just following the truth.
Okay.
So the dynamics, the culture of our families is more important than ever. And some of the things that we found that are causing our kids' bad behavior underneath, we focus on that behavior, but underneath it are oftentimes only 5% of thoughts and emotions are conscious. And so there's 95% of the thoughts and emotions are unconscious.
Yeah.
And we keep seeing the same issue in their life over and over again, and they can't figure it out, and we can't figure it out. It's coming from the unconscious. And so we've found that asking questions and helping our kids hear themselves and understand the feelings that are going on inside, understand what happened right before they made that bad decision, they learn so much better, and those unconscious things become conscious. We won't see change happen until it becomes conscious.
Well, one of the things you also talk about, in fact, I think it's your first chapter, the difference between compliance and change. You know, I'm not a parent, but of course I see other parents and their children, and they want the child to change their behavior, but that doesn't necessarily mean their attitude changes along with it, does it?
No, what we found is in so much of the traditional parenting world, we are seeking compliance. We are gaining compliance, but it's one of the things we saw in the research is once we exit their lives and they go off to college or they go off to the military and we're not there to force the compliance, they didn't have any internal heart change or desire change. And as a result, they blew up. They made horrible decisions. They got hurt. All sorts of horrible things went wrong. And so, when we go backwards and go, how do we see our kids change from the inside out as opposed to me trying to force the change from the outside in? That's a totally different perspective of parenting, and it's so much more fruitful.
Sounds like it. Well, another one of the phrases that you talk about a lot in your book is negative core beliefs. And so why don't you share with us what that is and how important it is?
Wow. Negative core beliefs absolutely drive so much of our kids' bad behavior. And what they are is they're normally set by age 6. And I didn't believe that at first until I had a family come out that had 5 kids all the way down to 2 years old. And as we were doing the stuff with the older adolescent kids, the younger kids started to want to do it. And their 5-year-old sat down, did the pain word sheet, and then when we came to identifying the unconscious core beliefs that we adopt as kids, everybody else in the family found it a lot harder, especially the adults, the parents. The 5-year-old listed them off just like this. I'm ugly. I'm not good enough. No one will care for me. I'm a failure. I'm stupid. And she just listed off all the things she believed deep inside about herself at age 5. And I'm like, holy cow, the psychological research is correct. It is happening by age 6 that these things are set. And the problem with that is when we have negative core beliefs and something positive comes our way, we'll dismiss it, minimize it, not hear it, reject it, because it's not consistent with what we hold to be true deep inside ourselves. But when negative comes along, it's consistent, so we tend to grab it, add it, and our pool of negativity can grow and grow and grow. And it can reach a point where we can't handle any more. And all of a sudden, our kids are defensive. All of a sudden, our kids are hard. They won't listen. They react. They flee, and they go fight or flight on us, and they react and come after us, or they seek to avoid us. And it's because this negativity is in there, and especially once adolescence hits and the changes in the adolescent brain shift electrical activity to develop synapses in the back of the brain, that the front lobe has less electrical activity and their emotional regulation actually decreases. So all of that negativity explodes in adolescence, and that's what's opening them to all these crazy ideas we see going on in society, that maybe this one silver bullet answer will fix all of that negativity you're feeling about yourself, and it won't, because it started back in childhood. But they provide this silver bullet answer today of, maybe you're bisexual, or maybe you're this, or maybe you're that. And it becomes a silver bullet they latch onto really, really hard. So raising our kids to have positive core beliefs and addressing our kids' negative core beliefs in a constructive way before they reach adolescence is absolutely critical today.
Well, we're going to talk more about these negative core beliefs in just a moment. Let me remind my listeners that we're chatting about the book, What's Really Causing My Kids' Bad Behavior, written by Jeff Schadt. And you're listening to Author's Corner, and I'm Roberta Foster. There's a lot of responsibility on the parents in how they talk to and about their children about these negative core beliefs. So how can parents help eliminate that or rebuild the child's belief about themselves?
Yeah, it's one of the things is core beliefs often slip out of our kids' mouths or even adults' mouths without us realizing it. Like they'll say, I'm stupid, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do anything right. Those things, if they slip out more than once, it's probably attached to a core belief. Okay. And the challenge that we have as parents is when we hear this, I'm ugly, we tend to say, oh, no, you're not, you're beautiful. Yeah. And the problem is remember, the positive gets rejected by the deep negative core belief. So if we say that, we found in the research and from working with kids and helping them heal from these things is we found that they're like, wow, my parent doesn't believe me, my parent doesn't listen to me, my parent doesn't understand me, because we're coming back and just contradicting something they hold so deeply to be true. And it's why we've got to ask questions like, okay, you feel ugly. Why do you feel ugly? Listen to it. And then, okay, is there anything else you want to share that's you're negative about yourself about? And Get them to share that. And then you can ask a question like, is this thing, being ugly or being stupid, is there any evidence in your life that you're not? And help them wrestle and start to try and find the truth. You got to go through the back door with core beliefs. You can't go through the front door, or you'll actually damage the relationship with your kid.
One of the phrases you mentioned earlier was fight or flight responses in kids. Tell us more about what that is, and for parents, how to avoid that.
Well, what we're seeing since COVID is a lot of kids have regulation issues. The amount of fear they lived in over that length of time actually decreased the threshold for them going into fight or flight responses. It's supposed to be life-threatening that would cause us to trigger into those types of responses, but we're seeing, like we had this one 13-year-old girl come in, and in our office we have blankets and teddy bears and things when they're talking about hard things they can hide under or wrap themselves in. And they're piled over here in the corner. And there's this thump back behind us. It didn't even startle me. It wasn't that loud. She dove head first into that pile like a soldier diving into a foxhole.
Wow.
And so we're seeing a ton of kids having regulation issues, and the problem with that is they're sensitive to sounds, the lights, movement, etc., and it looks a lot like ADD, ADHD. And what we're finding is it's really fight or flight. And so that can cause them to run and hide and go to tears, or it can cause them to come out and react and go raw on us. And there's definitely things that we need to realize with that. One, when they do that, they don't like it. They hate it. And they try and change it, and they don't feel like they can, which makes them more frustrated with themselves, which is going to lock them into fight or flight. So we've got to take the pressure off and help them go, hey, are you sensitive to this? Are you sensitive to lights or sound or this or this? And there's a whole bunch of stuff in the book you can look at to help you find out, are they in fight or flight? And if they are, then coming after them for their reaction is just going to trigger them deeper.
Right.
It's going to lead to a horrible cycle in your relationship with your kid. And so lots of times to help them get out of fight or flight, we actually have to take the pressure off. And, as long as they're not in high school and the grades don't count, we can do that. Sometimes we've got to be that Jesus that's there with the woman at the well who's really understanding and helps her walk into the light with her own issues in her own life, as opposed to us trying to force it on them, especially if they're in fight or flight.
Well, Jeff, in your final chapter, you suggest there is hope for parents and kids who are in this fractured relationship. And so give us a tip for that as we come to the end of our time together.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing we found in the research is every kid wanted to be close to their parent again.
Okay.
Every single one, even the ones that were on drugs. The ones that were on drugs often felt like there was no way they could ever get close to their parent again. They want to be close, even in adolescence, even in the teenage years, like they once were as young kids. And it's that internal desire to want to be close to us that if we change our tactics and stop focusing on the behavior and start drawing them out on the stuff going on underneath, that desire is our most powerful tool, our leverage to get them to consider, to listen, to be close to us because they want to. And the great news is a heart infused with the Holy Spirit never dies. It can be buried under 6 feet of expectations, under fight or flight, under negative core beliefs. But if we start digging and we start unearthing and removing the roots underneath their behavior by getting to know them, by listening, by asking questions, by helping them hear themselves, what we'll find is that heart can come roaring back to life way faster than parents believe. And we do this all the time, and with entire families, we do it with individual students. There's just a lot of ways that parents can make a huge difference in their lives. And to be honest with you, we believe parents are granted more influence in their kids' lives than the world or social media will ever have. What we found in our research is there's just a lot of ways we're squandering that influence and accidentally, unintentionally handing it to the world.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to learn from reading What's Really Causing My Kids' Bad Behavior. It is a quick read. It won't take hours and hours and hours, but just filled with such helpful information. And so, Jeff, tell our listeners how they can find out more about your book.
Well, you can actually get the book for free on our website right now in a PDF download at onerulehome.com and take the Child Concerned Index. for free as well for a limited time to figure out if you should be very concerned about your kid or not. And if you want it, buy it, and you want to listen to it or read it on a Kindle or get it in a paper form, it is available on Amazon in all three formats.
Wonderful. So one more time, the book is What's Really Causing My Kids' Bad Behavior? It's written by Jeff Schadt, and we certainly thank him for providing a copy of this book today. Jeff, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
It's been great talking with you, Roberta.
And to the listener, if you've missed any part of today's interview, it's certainly worth listening to again with all this helpful information. You can now find it on your favorite podcast platform or through kneo.org. And to our listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. This is Roberta Foster on the Author's Corner. Join me again next time.
Do you have 5 minutes for God? I'm Pastor Ed Wilson, and I believe there's no better way to begin each morning than spending a little time with Him. That's why every weekday morning I bring you a short devotional broadcast designed just for that. Look up God's 5 minutes wherever you get your podcasts to kickstart your spiritual walk for each day, and we'll always do it in 5 minutes or less. Have you talked to God today?